what is that root cause? So I'm not big on managing autoimmune. I mean, some you cannot reverse, but I've seen amazing miracles in my office. I mean, I really have. So some you can, or some you can slow the progression, or you can just not get any further autoimmune disease. You have to remember, a third of autoimmune disease root causes is genetics. Now, just because you have the genetics doesn't mean you're going to get it, but if you have the genetics, I would focus really on your lifestyle and your environment, because genetics load the gun, and your environment and your lifestyle pull the trigger.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Type 1 in Midlife podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Slip. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 14 years old and now founder and CEO of Abundant Health with Melissa. And as a certified health coach, I know the unique challenges of managing diabetes in midlife and beyond. So I've created a coaching model that has empowered hundreds of women to thrive despite their diagnosis. And each week, I'll bring you conversations and strategies with guest experts, along with insights from my own 40 plus years of living with type 1 diabetes. I'll also share how my faith empowers me both emotionally and helps me to navigate the daily challenges. So if you're a woman ready to redefine your diabetes journey, this podcast is for you. So before we dive in, remember this podcast isn't a substitute for personalized medical advice. Always consult with your physician or medical professional before making any changes to your diet, insulin dosages, or healthcare plan. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Type 1 in Midlife and Beyond podcast. We have a special guest. Her name is Risa Groux, and she is a functional nutritionist and certified autoimmune coach from California. And Risa's passion for nutrition began early, making her children's baby food from scratch. And now she creates healthy, nutritious meals for her clients, including some professional athletes as well. And Risa's her specialties include diabetes, autoimmune disease, cancer, digestion, thyroid, and hormone imbalances, everything that is related to inflammation. So we learn more about that today. And she believes in the body's ability to heal itself with whole foods and sees this daily in her own practice. And she's using functional nutrition guidelines, as she's going to share with us today, and also blood and stool tests to get to the root cause of what's going on. And Risa identifies root causes of health issues with her clients and views weight loss as a side effect of overall wellness. And in our conversation, we explore her journey and the moment she realized she could naturally reverse her autoimmune disease symptoms. And we discuss common misconceptions about autoimmune and the importance of diet and how she identifies the root causes. And Risa shares her approach to tailoring dietary and supplement treatments, her top health tips, and success stories from her practice. So don't miss out on this opportunity to learn from Risa's expertise and take steps towards better health, living with type 1 as we are either in menopause or maybe you're already in postmenopause like myself. So plus Risa is offering our listeners 10% off her 14-day nutritional detox. You can check the show notes for the link to get this special deal. So we hope you enjoy this conversation, learn some valuable tips, and please share this episode with anyone you think would benefit from hearing it. Enjoy. Well, hello and welcome. I am here today with Miss Risa Groux. Hello, Risa.
How are you today? I'm great. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, same here. I'm really happy to connect with like-minded women who enjoy speaking the truth about really our body and how it functions and how we can optimize our health. So today, as I introduced you in the, so our listeners know a little bit about you, that you are a functional nutritionist and certified autoimmune coach, and you're in private practice there in California. So let's begin. Let's start from the beginning. What sparked your interest in functional nutrition and autoimmune coaching?
Well, it was a bit of a journey, but I think like everybody else's story, right? I grew up with a lot of food confusion growing up in a house where my mom was always trying to lose the 5 or 10 pounds. And my grandmother was doing the same thing. And, I had this really wonky relationship with food because some foods were considered bad and some foods were considered good. And I always thought the bad foods tasted pretty good to me. So I was very confused. And why were women all around me on this restrictive starvation, just constant focusing on, are we on or are we off? Are we on a diet? It was just crazy making. So I got very interested in actual real nutrition from there. Got married, had my first baby, no problem, right off the gate, right out of the gate, we got pregnant, easy pregnancy, everything was great. Second time trying, just wasn't happening. Went to a fertility specialist, and basically the fertility specialist said, you have an underachieving thyroid. And he passed over a script across the table. And I said, well, how long do I take this for? And he said, every day. And I said, no, for how long? And he said, oh, for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And that moment kind of struck me. I was like, two questions I had. Why are you not worried that my thyroid is not making any thyroid hormone? And what can we do about that? Right? I was born to make thyroid hormone. And if it's not doing that, why are we not asking? And the second question is, why are you not wondering why it's not happening? Right? Why are we giving a synthetic medication to duplicate a natural function that my body should be doing? So that really kind of started me on my way. I started creating a list of reasons why I couldn't get pregnant. And it turned out I had MTHFR, the gene mutation that's very common. I took a B vitamin. I did some acupuncture. Next thing you know, I got pregnant after several times of miscarriages or just not getting pregnant. Yeah. And so after that, shortly thereafter, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, an autoimmune disease. And that's when I really ramped up and said, what is going on? Is my body out of control? Like, what's happening? And why are people not worried about this? So I couldn't find a list at the time, this is many years ago, to find root causes for autoimmunity. So I put together my own root cause list. I put it in my book, Food Frame, and I went through every single one. And of course, I had every single one. So I addressed them. It took me years to get through it, but I was able to reverse my Hashimoto's and not gain any other autoimmune diseases, which was awesome. So during that time, I was in functional medicine. I was in nutrition school. I went back to school, and then I was working with clients, and then I really dove in big time with autoimmunity because it's so rampant, it's growing, and people are helpless because they go to the doctor. We've got a raging fire in the basement, and the doctor's giving them a little squirt gun, if that. So we need to get a fire hose, get that inflammation out of the system, and be able to either reverse, manage, slow down the progression, or and not get any more autoimmune diseases.
Right. Well, how now you've just described what your path was to not only the symptoms and what led you to where you are now. So what exactly did you do to reverse your autoimmune? I mean, I'm sure we're all fascinated with that.
Yeah, well, one of the things I did was I looked at my mercury levels, which were through the roof. I had eaten tuna fish sandwiches my entire childhood, and then they moved to tuna fish salads when I was older. And then, of course, ahi came on the scene, and it was like tuna by day and ahi by night. So I had tons of mercury. So it took me about almost a year to chelate off of that. I had an active Epstein-Barr virus that I had to address. I had low vitamin D. I had MTHFR. And then at the time, I was eating a vegan diet, and I wasn't eating any sugar at all. I wasn't eating pasta, things like that. And my blood sugars, I was almost pre-diabetic. My cholesterol was through the roof, literally 300 and something. And I realized, I took a Boston Heart Lab, and I realized that I had very high risk for cardiovascular disease. And so I know the connection between dental health and cardiovascular health. So I found a really great biological dentist and went to her. I ordered my own stool test because I had been super compliant on a program that I was working with a functional doctor. And I was like 99% compliant. I took a zillion supplements. I changed my diet, and the needle moved just a little bit, just a little hair. And so I ordered my own stool test, and that's when I found it. I brought it to the biological dentist, and she said, you've got a salivary bacteria. And she did a CAT scan, and sure enough, they found it. There, 23 years prior, I had my wisdom teeth removed, and there was a cyst growing around the root that they had left there. And they also left a piece of metal in there, which we didn't know until we opened me up. But anyway, I had zero symptoms. You couldn't see it, you couldn't feel it. I mean, I had no idea. Once I had that removed, and I treated my whole mouth with ozone, which kills bacteria, my blood sugar numbers were normalized, my cholesterol came down, everything normalized. So, I always feel like if you feel like something's off in your body, something's off.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'll point to a pun because you mentioned root, the root of your teeth. Talk about root cause, right? Exactly. That's so interesting. And it's so empowering when you can actually find the answers. And, as we're recording this, I didn't have a chance to even mention this to you before we hit record today. But I am going through skin issues, and I've been having this is something I'm sharing with my audience. I've done a little bit of talking about it here on the podcast. It's very new and fresh. I am getting ready this is mid-July right now when we're recording this. And then I actually do have an appointment with Mayo Clinic at the end of the week because I, like you, I am just given creams and topical treatments, just told I have eczema, I have this, I have that, just deal with it. I'm like, no. My skin is erupting for a reason. So as we know at this time in this space and time at this minute, I still don't have I don't know the reason. And I'm anxious to find out, and I'm very anxious to be able to share that with my clients, my followers, and all the listeners here, because this is such the timing of this is just so important. Like today, and you can comment on this if you want. There's a functional medicine doctor that lives close by. She's an amazing, sweet lady, just giving me as much information and support as she can. And she just suggested, because this is, I'm trying all the things already, even before my doctor's appointment next week, the microbiome, I've had a stool test, I've done all the things, I've had biopsies, and nothing's coming back conclusive. But she just mentioned mold. So that's the new theory. Again, we're just throwing some ideas out there. Again, unfortunately, that was not part of my GI map. That was not part of the testing. So if I'm going to wait and see what those test results come back, and then we'll see if that's something I have to take that next step on. But just like you said, obviously, when you are breaking out from head to toe, there is something wrong. And to say that we're just going to walk around for the rest of our life with itchy skin and, oh, well, no, there's a reason. My body is speaking to me. It's yelling to me. And I think the hardest part is the waiting. It's kind of stolen my spirit on some days. There are days that I am depressed because I feel hopeless, but I know that there is hope in this. And when we see it to the end, it's definitely going to shine light, not only on my own situation, but, to help others. So, and I didn't mean to go off on a tangent there, but it's so important. And I think because when we live with type 1 diabetes, which is an autoimmune, my body, like many of my listeners, our body just decided to destroy our beta cells way back when, for me, 42 plus years. And of course, there was a reason that happened too, a reason that I'll never know at this point, it's too far ahead. But some of the other ones that I hope that you can kind of shed a light on, that are usually, they're sometimes paired with type 1 diabetes, as all autoimmune tend to be. Things like, and arthritis, I know, is autoimmune, and thyroid, just like you were mentioning, celiac. Celiac is very commonly connected with people I know close to me that are that are all, that already live with type 1. So yeah. So what can you say about that as far as the listeners here with type 1? The ears are open for that, and these other ones that we need to be more aware of. And you pointed out something that is we're hearing the word inflammation a whole lot more. But what exactly is inflammation?
Okay, so there's so much to respond to on that.
I know, I'm sorry. And sometimes I do that. I just spit out
okay.
stuff. So,
but on your skin stuff, I need to know a little bit more about what's going on, because there might be mast cell activation, or I don't know what is going on, but you're right. It is an inside job. It's not because you were born with a deficiency in some topical cream, right? Something is driving inflammation and you're seeing it in the skin. Now, it could be the liver, it could be mold, it could be a lot of things. I do a lot of mold testing and treatment.
Good.
Is
Good to know.
Issue. I do a ton of that. So that's that on the skin. When you go into an autoimmune state, basically we have our Treg cells. I'll try not to get too technical here, but we have our Treg cells, which is our immune system. And we fluctuate from being Th1 dominant and Th2 dominant. Th1 is a little bit smaller things, bacterial. Th2 is a little bit bigger things, virus, asthma, things like that. And when you get into an autoimmune state, we get our Th17 gets activated. Th17 creates what we call a cytokine storm. Cytokines are molecules that basically are created when there is a fire in the basement. They are inflammatory cells. And if kappa B gets involved, which affects your DNA, all that stuff. So what's happening is, I call it a raging fire in the basement. You've got massive inflammation. If I did your blood work, I would look at all your inflammatory markers, and my guess is they'd probably be elevated, right? Now, when you're in the state of inflammation, we know that inflammation is the driver of disease. We know this. We know the people who were dying of COVID were in third stage inflammation, and that's how it got into their respiratory tract, right? It was usually people with elevated blood sugars, because that is a state of inflammation, right? So inflammation is the driver of disease. So if you do not put that fire out, then you are basically just a sitting duck waiting for other autoimmune diseases. And yes, you're correct. Celiac is very common with type 1 diabetes. Also with Hashimoto's, it can be, but type 1 diabetes for sure. But you're going to get tons of stuff, right? You're going to get, just opening up the door, it could be, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune. We've been able to track that to a pathogen. I've been able to reverse that several times, and which is amazing, right? Crohn's, colitis, all these autoimmune diseases. What is that root cause? So I'm not big on managing autoimmune. I mean, some you cannot reverse, but I've seen amazing miracles in my office. I mean, I really have. So some you can, or some you can slow the progression, or you can just not get any further autoimmune disease. You have to remember, a third of autoimmune disease root causes is genetics. Now, just because you have the genetics doesn't mean you're going to get it. But if you have the genetics, I would focus really on your lifestyle and your environment, because genetics load the gun, and your environment and your lifestyle pull the trigger. So it doesn't mean you have to have that. It means you can make a left turn, but you have to be aware of that and make conscious decisions about your environment and your lifestyle. So
I like that.
A third of it is genetics. And then the other major part of autoimmune disease is leaky gut. So like you said, you did the GI map. I love that. I use that test with every single person I work with. That was the test that I found where I connected my cardiovascular issues. So I'm a huge fan. Most GI doctors will look at maybe 4, maybe 6 pathogens, where the GI map looks at over 80. And it's really important to know. And it looks at also what your own pancreatic production is, your own inflammation in your intestinal lining, how you do with gluten or gliadin. It just goes a myriad of things. Your secretory IgA, your immune system, your good guys in your gut, tells us where your good guys are, your bad guys, worms, fungus, candida, all those things. So it's really important to take a full look and see what's happening in the basement, right?
Absolutely.
So that's what I typically do with everybody to avoid getting more autoimmune diseases.
I love that. And like with type 1 is to date, it's not curable. There's definitely some things going on, as far as pancreas transplants and all of that. But basically, the damage that was done is not something that our body can reverse. But I like what you're saying with these other ones. I think sometimes we can almost get into that victim role when we have one autoimmune, and that can really suck us down. And I think that does affect our choices, and choices are things that we can make. I often say, and I share this with my clients, and I have to share this with myself, this is a constant reminder. There are things we can control. There are choices we can make every day. And that's really the only thing we can do when it comes to our health. And you brought up some really good things. And I think the first thing is really just the awareness, and to listen to what our body's saying, listening to the symptoms, definitely getting those. I'm a big believer in getting those tests done too. There's no point in guessing. It really is about collecting the information. Now, GI map is one of the tests that we talked about. There's a lot of tests out there, and I'm assuming, and it sounds like you've got a lot of experience working with clients and reading these tests. And that's important. You can't just have a test done. I could think of some other ones just off the top of my head, but I'm not going to list them here. That, you can get the test, but you've got to have a clinician that actually knows how to interpret them.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you can go to some practitioners and they will order a myriad of tests. Mm. And I don't think that that's the most efficient way to do it. I think it's costly. It's too much information. It's very overwhelming. I go step by step. So everyone I work with, I order a comprehensive bioscreen. I am looking at all your inflammation markers, your 9 markers of thyroid, your 4 markers of blood sugar. Do we have insulin resistance? Are we going towards a type 1 diabetes situation? Or what does that look like? And then I'm looking at, iron, I'm looking at white blood cells, I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at, inflammation. After that, and then at the same time, I'm running the stool test. With those 2 tests, I can usually have enough information to go from there. If we don't see symptoms starting to fade, then I'm going to take other steps. We're going to do mold, we're going to do mercury, we're going to do hormones for sure. There's lots of things that we can do, but I do it sort of as an as-needed basis because it can get very expensive.
Sure. And unfortunately, a lot of it's not covered by insurance, right? Because they're not big about preventive health. That's another whole podcast.
Yes, exactly.
So what is your, as far as type 1, and let's kind of shift over to hormones, because you just mentioned hormone testing, and we've talked a lot about that, topic right here on the show. I've had some other doctors on, and testing is so important. And I think that's where it can get kind of held up. Again, doctors, the typical OBGYNs are not trained in hormones, which shocked me when I first learned that. And I just learned that like over a year ago. I just assume, so don't assume that if you're going in and you're getting your annual pap smear, like if you're getting, you're over 40, you're starting to kind of head into the perimenopause stage. And this is such a wide open question. I'm getting a lot of really good, I'm hearing a lot of really good conversations here on other podcasts about it. I think it's so important for women to pay attention to this. But so how do you approach this if you're working with a woman? And if have you had a chance to work with any women with type 1 diabetes? I know that might be a harder question to answer as far as that demographic for you, but is this something that you've come across? And if you haven't, how would you approach testing?
So yes, of course, I've been doing this for a few decades, so I've seen a lot, and I've been very fortunate to see some major, amazing things happen. Really, some that I didn't even know or intend to happen, and their side effects, because wellness is really, it's an amazing thing. And once you start getting healthy, of course you have weight loss, but you also have other things that start to really go by the wayside. So what I typically do is, let me talk about the endocrine system. So the endocrine system is composed, it starts really with our pituitary, which is the size and shape of a pea in our brain. And that really is the starter for our endocrine system. And in our endocrine system, we have 3 departments. We have our adrenal glands, which make cortisol and a bunch of other different hormones. And then we make our sex hormones, right? That's all of our sex hormones are made. And then we have our thyroid. So our thyroid is a very fragile and very complicated system. It's a gland, but there's so many things, I say to people all the time I work with, and remember when you take your kids to the science museum and you start on the second floor and you throw that ball down the track and it goes through it rings the bell, it goes to the domino sets, it goes to the tunnel, rings lights, all these things happen, all these systems take place before it actually lands into the cup. That's how complicated your thyroid is. And it's so critical for almost every system in the body. So it's really important to make sure that thyroid is working optimally, which, in conventional medicine, they just basically, order your TSH and maybe you'll get lucky with a T4 and maybe possibly a T3, but that's very unusual. But I look at all 9 markers. So those 3 departments are your endocrine system. When you are out of balance, and a lot of times I find people are out of balance with all 3, right? Perhaps they're going through menopause, they've been on Synthroid for 25 years and they feel sluggish, they can't help but gain weight, they're exhausted, they've got constipation. And then, of course, they're not sleeping, right? They've got a lot of stress, so they're just up all night, in the middle of the night. So, of course, that can be hormones, but it can also be cortisol. And so those are the trifecta people, I call them. Like you've got, you went for the big 3. And that is going to dysregulate or have a very major impact on blood sugars. So when any of those 3 are out of being dysregulated, you're going to see an effect on the blood sugars. But when all 3, you can only imagine what happens, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a symphony. And unfortunately, our paradigm for conventional medicine is not set up for a symphony. It's set up for separate solo artists, right? Because we have doctors who do different appendages, and we don't have a doctor who just does autoimmunity, and we don't look at the body as one whole interconnective unit unless you're going to a functional medicine practitioner. I look at the whole body as one interconnective unit. So I see people from time to time, and it happens, a fair amount, where their blood sugars are pre-diabetic, but they eat amazing, they exercise amazing, but they have major dysregulation, something in their endocrine system. Or it could be a virus that is causing blood sugar dysregulation. So I'm always looking at the root cause of why this is happening for this person. If their diet is super clean, they're exercising, all that kind of stuff, there's no reason, such as my case, right? There was no reason I would have been almost pre-diabetic. There just wasn't. I wasn't eating a lot of carbs. I was exercising. It just didn't make sense. So then I don't think people are crazy. I don't think they need, depression medication.
Right.
I think that there is a root that we have to look a little bit lower and find out what that is that's dysregulating that.
Yeah. And you mentioned something important too. You talked about the impacts of blood sugar. And again, we're really diving more into that topic here on the show because I've experienced it myself. Again, my thyroid's okay, so I've got no issues with thyroid. Again, I've got this other inflammation going, so stay tuned for that. But that has impacted my insulin sensitivity. I am on hormone replacement. Those numbers have fallen in the last couple months since this inflammation. So just like you say, it's one circle, it's all connected. And we really do have to pay attention to really what our body is speaking. But you mentioned, the effects, the different things that affect blood sugar. And definitely all these other hormones. And it is unfortunate. And I think many women our age living with type 1 that are going to the doctor, and they're not even necessarily looking at their hormonal stage, which is kind of sad. I think they just put them in a box, assuming that, well, you're getting older. You've been living with this autoimmune type 1 for so long, there's, things happen, your body, your mood's going to be affected, all these excuses as to why a woman is literally clinically depressed. But there's so much more to it than, just like you say, just prescribing a antidepressant. Another thing that we didn't even talk about, which is another hormone, which is vitamin D3. That is something, yes. And we've talked a lot about that here on the show as well. I'm a big advocate for that. it's one of the first things that, when a client shares their blood work with me, again, I can't prescribe or anything like that, but we can go over it together and I just kind of help point things out that I see. But optimal vitamin D3 and how important that is for insulin use and to make us more sensitive to our insulin. And again, the standard doctors don't typically know that. And I knew that because I went through it. So I knew when I was in perimenopause, my D3 levels were in the 30s. And of course, according to, the lab results and, what they say is optimal or standard, I'm like, no, that's not even close to being optimal. So we're going to see those effects much more dramatic. And I always say it's kind of a blessing that we have these trackers. I wear a CGM so I can see my glucose all the time. So the light bulb's going off all day. To tell me whether or not something that doesn't make sense is not adding up with my numbers that day. So we do have that advantage going for us. The average woman doesn't. Just based on that. But there's so many, all these hormones, like you say, are just so connected, and it's just so important for us to understand that. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And vitamin D, I mean, I love that you said there was a hormone because nobody really knows that, but it is a hormone. We have a vitamin D receptor site in every cell in the body. And, people need to realize that the reference ranges on a lab is what is, they reassess them quarterly. So you could be diagnosed with something somewhere and not another place. It could be a building across the street that has a different lab in there. So they all reassess their ranges. And what they're doing is they're looking at what's normal. And normal is what they're seeing in their lab. Well, we are a fat and sick country, and that is what's considered normal. This is not optimal, and their ranges are very wide. So they're waiting for you to get into full disease state until they treat you. Functional medicine, functional nutrition does prevention. We have much more narrow reference ranges because we're looking for optimal health. We're not waiting for you to get into a disease state.
Yeah, I love that. So speaking of like challenges, I'm going to shift over here to talk about diets because in your experience, what are the biggest challenges that the people that you are seeing and your patients face when adjusting their diets for health reasons? And in this case, I could definitely comment on type 1, but I think in general, it's really just that relationship with food. But what are you seeing in relation to, their attitude, their just, what that is for them?
So most people come to see me, I'm sort of at the end of the line. They've been to several practitioners. They still feel like crap. They don't want to take medication. They can't lose weight. They don't feel well. Their symptoms haven't gone. And so they come to see me. So I change their diet right off the bat. And I think that, most people, it's make this investment in themselves and say, I'm going to do this. And if I wish people could sit with me all day because you just watch people's symptoms go away. I mean, it's just amazing how many people I work with that it's just amazing. I'm just going to insert a very quick story here that
I love stories. Yes.
Several years ago, I got a call from the world famous golfer, Freddie Couples. He's a PGA phenom. He's just had major records, super great guy. And he calls me and he says, hey, can you help me lose 20 pounds before the Masters? I'm like, absolutely, like, no problem. So he comes in and I'm like, Freddie, tell me about the back pain, because he was famous for back pain. He was carted off horses. He had, chronic back pain, traveled with his physical therapist. And he starts telling me all these stories about his back pain and which doctors he sees in which countries and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, what about the surgeries? And he said, well, I've never had a surgery. And I'm like, has anybody ever checked you for inflammation? And he said, I don't think so. I said, I'm going to order some tests. He goes, order whatever you need. Now, this is a guy who has 2 homes, both on golf courses, and he works on golf courses. So he is breathing in chemicals day in, day out, right? It's all 24/7. And then he has all this travel. So there's radiation and there's all this food that he's eating outside of his home with all these inflammatory oils. Well, sure enough, I put him on my detox, and I mean, his number was 7 or 8 as far as pain every day, 10 being excruciating, unbearable. And the first week he came in, I said, "What's your number?" He said 4. And then every week thereafter, he was a 0 or 1, depending on how much golf he played. But we were able to completely able to decrease his systemic inflammation, which nobody had ever addressed, which is insane to me, right? So it was just a buildup of inflammation. It was already affecting, he was getting headaches, he had smell sensitivity. It was all very typical, highly toxic. So that was a great story. Now, I have a zillion of them. I work with people. I'm working with a woman now who has rheumatoid arthritis, young woman in her 30s, 3 kids, cannot function, major pain, and she's in an 8 every day, and rashes, and I mean, just a mess. And we cleaned up her diet. She had a very standard American diet, and we cleaned her up her diet. I gave her, my Fab 5 for autoimmunity, and, I gave her the fire hose. And pretty much, I just spoke to her a few weeks ago, and I think it was maybe our 10th or 11th meeting, totally out of pain. Like 0, no pain, no skin issues, nothing. She said her energy's through the roof. I think she lost about 35 pounds, but we never put her on a diet. I gave her a fire hose for the inflammation in the basement. And that's what we do. We address that inflammation because, as I said at the beginning, this is, it causes disease, right? It's the driver of disease.
I love that. Yes, yes. So when you say fire hose, what exactly is that for her?
So I have 5 for inflammatory for my fire hose. Vitamin D, omega, my omega max, and my vitamin D is vitamin K, and there's no crap oils in it. So be careful when you buy your supplements. You have to look at the labels just like food, because there's so much crap, dyes, chemicals, crazy. Inflammatory oils. Anyway, so it's vitamin D, my omega max, my turmeric max for anti-inflammatory, resveratrol with quercetin, which is really helpful, very anti-aging, but really good anti-inflammatory, and glutathione, which is our master antioxidant. It helps prevent any oxidative stress. That's anything that comes into the body and wants to create disease. So I'm a huge fan of those 5. I also have a supplement called AI Balance, Autoimmune Balance, which is really a heavy anti-inflammatory. Nice. But those are the Fab 5 I take. Those are the Fab 5 I give to everybody who walks in my door with either autoimmunity or inflammation.
Okay. So because you've mentioned detox, and I know we're kind of jumping ahead, and I'm definitely going to give you a chance to talk more about your detox, because I know you've got an offer for our listeners today. But do you start? So like for instance, Freddie Couples, he was somebody that came in with all of these symptoms, and a goal in mind. And I'm assuming the weight was part of the inflammation, right?
Yeah.
So do you start with the detox?
I always start with the detox, because
so it's about getting rid of the old, bring in the new, right?
Basically, program. It's not a starvation diet. It's you eat when you're hungry, you don't when you're not, but we're very specific. We're eating clean animal protein. We're eating an abundant of fiber vegetables, with exceptions, but any way you want them, except for deep fried. And then we're eating some sweet potato and yams, and good fats, eggs, nuts, seeds, olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil. So we need those fats. And we're removing the gluten, the dairy, the chemicals, the alcohol, the coffee, if it's sprayed, if it's, mold and sprayed with pesticides. And we're removing, sugar and processed foods and bad oils. And after those 2 weeks, I'll get the labs back after those 2 weeks, so I know where the next steps are. But the beauty of it is so many of the symptoms fall by the wayside after those 2 weeks. When we are inundated with chemicals, the average American female comes in contact with over 200 toxins just before she's left the bathroom each morning. And it's probably even higher than that. Think about shampoos, your conditioners. What are we sleeping on? Was there chemicals? I just moved into a new home and I can't find a couch without chemicals. It's insane to me. Our rugs, our sheets, our mattresses, everything, our furniture is just sprayed when it comes in. I'm like opening all the doors. Like it's just
understood.
So it really is. And then we do nail polish and makeup and what we put on our face and what we put in our hair. And then, if you put gels on your nails, and it just goes on and on and on.
On and on and on.
And so
Absolutely.
we are inundated with chemicals, and those chemicals they live in fat cells and fat tissues. So of course you're going to lose weight when you do detox, but it's not a weight loss program. I mean, everybody does lose weight, but I always say it's a wellness program, and weight loss is a side effect of wellness. So it's really good. And that by that time in 2 weeks, their energy is good. They feel great. Their digestion's working great. Their skin is really good, and their hair, everything is good. Usually, if they still have remaining symptoms, then I know kind of where to go from there, right? It still could be inflammation, but it could be other underlying stuff. But we're usually cleaning out all the stuff from diet. And so at that point, I created what's called Food Frame. It's my methodology because I've been doing this for so many years that I realized after years in practice, decades, I would put everybody on the same diet type when they first walked in my office. And then I realized some would thrive and some wouldn't. So I've created this system where I believe that everybody should be eating according to their current health status. So if you have autoimmunity, we've got a fire in the basement, I'm going to put you either on AIP or I'm going to go to low lectin or paleo, right? I'm going to do paleo without nightshades. And then if you've got, let's say, IBS or SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, you've got chronic bloating, you've got maybe chronic diarrhea or constipation, I'm going to do a low FODMAP program for you. And then if you just have some maybe blood sugar dysregulations, we're going to talk about paleo or keto, depending on what your labs look like. If you have a gallbladder and if your bile's not sludgy. So I very customize an eating program for each person individually because one size does not fit all. We should know this by now, right? That's why.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is a side note. I was curious. Do you look at blood type?
No, I don't. I have in the past.
Okay. I've always been curious about that. It's something that I'm aware of and I've kind of peeked at, but it's not something I follow by any means. But
it isn't what I follow. I think innately and I've seen a lot of inconsistencies with blood type. But anyway, I think I think it's valuable research, but I don't subscribe to that at all. I look at the facts. I look at where you are. What does your blood work look like? How do you feel?
Right.
Sitting a person on a lab, but that lab is going to tell me a lot.
Right. Whereas blood type's a factor, but it's not, or it's just a constant, but it's not necessarily a factor of really what's going on. Yeah, I like that. So what are your top tips for somebody with type 1 diabetes? So our listeners here who are looking to improve their health through their diet. And I know you've talked about supplements. I'm glad that you've already mentioned your top 5, your Fab 5. I love that. So those are obviously ones, once the body's healed, once the inflammation is quieted, to bring in those Fab 5 to continue to support and to nourish, really, just to keep everything level and in balance.
Yeah.
So what about diet? Share with us, what does your diet look like, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Always curious.
Yeah. So I eat pretty clean. I have a collagen shake. I'm a huge fan of collagen. I just had my collagen shake, and I always put protein, fat, and fiber every time I eat. So my protein is my collagen. My fat is either coconut milk, or I use tahini. This morning I used tahini, or I'll do a half an avocado. Occasionally I'll do almond butter, but usually it's either coconut cream, tahini, or avocado. And then I throw a bunch of spinach or kale or some kind of greens in there along with a seed. So I do a chia seeds as I did this morning, or hemp seed. And then I did my chocolate collagen today. So I always put a little extra raw cacao in there because it's packed with nutrients, tastes yummy. Sometimes I'll throw a couple drops of peppermint extract in there and make it like a chocolate mint shake, which is so good. But I make different shakes every day. And that's pretty much what I have for breakfast almost every day. Some days I'll have eggs, but usually on Sundays. And then I always have protein, fat, and fiber. So I'm eating a clean animal protein. So it's usually chicken or fish or turkey. I don't really eat red meat. I haven't since I'm 17, but I'm actually thinking about maybe starting to incorporate some good red meat. And then I eat an abundance of vegetables. 60 to 80% of my plate is always something from the ground. Whether it's a stir fry or it's vegetables or something. And then once a week, probably have sweet potato fries. I just made a bunch the other night. So we've been kind of grazing on those. And then I eat really good fats. So, as I said, the eggs, the nuts, the seeds. If autoimmune, when I went on AIP to reverse my Hashis, I did not eat eggs for at least 90 days. But I brought them back now, and I seem to be totally fine with that. Once you address the leaky gut, and I always put my gut reboot in my in my shake because it has slippery elm, marshmallow root, zinc, carnosine,
Gotcha. Good stuff.
Really good for healing.
Yeah.
And I've worked with people with type 1 diabetes, and we've been able to stabilize blood sugars and not have those swings as much. I know that the conventional medicine community, I'm sure you know this very well, they're like, oh, always have a cookie with you or some orange juice, or, you just gotta, but you really don't need those cookies to swing the pendulum. If you're a little bit more stable and your swings are not quite as wide, real food, you do not need to have those swings. So, so just real food. I eat real food all the time.
Our plates are very similar. So yes, we have that in common. And yes, fat, fiber, and protein are real important, and lots of vegetables. I totally agree with that. And you mentioned also about just talking about, just ways to get all this in and how important, and I think there's that, there's that question that, and I get asked this all the time, or this assumption that, oh, poor you, you have to manage blood sugar. You can't eat this. People just naturally assume it's just sugar. It's like, well, yeah, obviously the sweet stuff we stay away from, but a lot of those simple carbs turn to sugar. There's just a disconnect. People just don't understand really how the body processes carbohydrates. So yeah, really good stuff. I appreciate all that and sharing it. And people like that. They want to hear. They want to picture it. I got a good picture as far as what your lunch and your dinner plate and what your smoothies look like. So that's really cool. Because it's so relatable. So that's really good. And and fat is something. It helps with obviously our blood sugar. All of this is just, it helps. And you mentioned that we want to avoid the the roller coaster, as we call it. And fat and fiber really do help that. Not only are we satisfied, but we're not reaching for the stuff that's going to jeopardize our blood sugar, and we stay more even. Blood sugar is more predictable when our diet is much more balanced and in sync like that. So yeah, I know I've grown success with that as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah. So what future developments do you foresee? And this is a great question, in the field of functional nutrition and autoimmune disease treatment. And it all starts with the education, I think, just what the medical schools are, how they're training the people that help us, the doctors that help us. But so what do you see in the future?
So I see an advancement that's taking place right now. We're at the very beginning of it, and it's going to be the next 5 years for sure, which I am super excited about, which is a little bit more personalized probiotics. I think probiotics is such an important field, and I don't think a lot of people know exactly what probiotics are, what the good ones are, what the, how, we have short chain fatty acids that really is the postbiotic. It feeds the end of the line. We have the probiotic, we have the prebiotic. So not everybody should have all of those. We have spore biotics. I mean, we have so many different probiotics, and we don't know exactly which one we should take, right? Do you need 100 billion? Do you need one strain? Do you need 10? I mean, it was just very confusing. So I think all of that is being really untangled, and we're going to have a lot more better information. And this is a probiotic more for mental health. This one is more for gut health. This is more for autoimmune, whatever it is. We're really seeing more specified probiotics in the futures, which I am super excited about.
That is exciting. Yeah. Because, you hear of people, friends, girlfriends that say, oh yeah, I just started on a probiotic. And I always ask, okay, so, and maybe you can answer this. Shouldn't we be tested first to know what strains our body needs? Obviously. Right. So is this going to be part of what you're excited about? Is facts there's going to be more of a step-by-step?
I mean, when I test people for their stool test on that GI map, I'm going to see the good guys. Now, like Akkermansia, for instance, Akkermansia municiphilia is a strain. It's a really protective probiotic. I love Akkermansia. It's really helpful to fight against cancers and diseases. It's a really good guy. And I test everybody for it. And a lot of people, I would say maybe 70% of the people I test for don't even have any. So you have to get some Akkermansia, which they now just started. I mean, I'm talking about a couple of months ago, they just started making an Akkermansia, and we can recolonize it with things like cranberries or pomegranates, but you can't recolonize it in your mucosal lining if you don't even have any to begin with. So like, that's a really good example. So then I'm going to give that person a couple of bottles of Akkermansia. Once they have it in their system, we're going to help recolonize it so you don't have to take it forever. But I just got a stool test with somebody the other day. I mean, I do this every day, but she said, oh, do I need to take a probiotic? And I said, well, look at your good guys. You are very efficient with your good guys. You don't need any more probiotics right now. And her diet should keep perpetualizing that production of her good guys. And that will take place in a good gut with a good mucosal lining. So the question is, does she have a good gut and a good mucosal lining? That's what I'm looking for. If you have leaky gut, yeah, we're going to need some probiotics. But if I see your stool test, most people don't have a lot. Some people, if they have antibiotic usage, they're pretty much low in everything. So that's a person I'm going to give a probiotic to. I'm going to give almost everybody a short chain fatty acid, a postbiotic, because that's really helpful. It gives the diversity of the microbiome, and it feeds the colon, the end of the line, which it usually doesn't get any probiotics. So that's really important as well.
Yeah, and I can feel your excitement with this, because I know this is something that you've been so close to and so much a part of for so many years, and you are a gift to have for not only for our listeners today, but all the people that you're helping. So it's really good stuff. It is exciting. It's exciting to have people like you in this space that are serving us and helping us and getting to the root cause, right? So we started and ended this conversation with root cause and healing, right? Let's heal.
Yeah. I'm very grateful. I get to watch people heal for a living, and it is so cool to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Without our health, and I'm going through this personally. I'll tell you, it will weigh on us. It will drive us down if we let it. But it's amazing when we don't feel our best and we know something's wrong, how it does affect lots of areas of our life and our energy. So yeah, definitely chase the health, ladies that are listening today. We encourage you to do that. So, Risa, where can our listeners learn more and find out about your detox that you mentioned?
Yeah, so everything is on my website at Risa, Risa Groux, Grous, nutrition.com. I have a course that I put all my life's work on thyroid. I put all my love energy into a thyroid course called Achieving Optimal Thyroid Health that I wish I had when I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. And it teaches you how to read your own blood work, what they mean, what to eat, what not to eat, what supplements to take, what supplements not to take, everything. It really breaks down everything thyroid, regardless of your situation of thyroid. And then I have my detox, which, I'm a big fan of. It's a 2-week course, as I mentioned, and it's called the RGN Detox. And we are offering your listeners a 10% discount for 90 days after you drop, called Type 110. That's the code to use, Type 1. So it would be Type 110. And then my book, Food Frame, is on there, where I highlight all 6 different major diet types that I recommend for people I work with, and tons of recipes, really easy to read. And then all my social media is Risa Groux Nutrition. I've got tons of articles and all kinds of stuff.
Yes. And yep. And just like we always do, I will link all that to make it easy for everybody to find you and to stay connected and to find out about that detox. Really good stuff. Well, thank you, Risa. This has been a pleasure to meet you and to share all your expertise and your passion with my listeners. Much appreciated.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, same here. And yes, and please reach out to Risa. Again, we will link everything right here for you. We hope that this conversation fed you well and that you saw some value, and please share it. We appreciate all that all of our listeners can do to get this information out to other people that need to hear it as well. So until next time, have a beautiful day. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to the Type 1 Midlife podcast. We are so grateful for the time that we spent together today. And if this conversation resonated with you, or you just love connecting with others living with T1D, please take a moment to leave a rating and review. Your feedback helps us reach more people who need this community and resources. And if you realize you need more support than you're currently getting, remember you don't have to struggle alone. Visit me at abundanthealthwithmelissa.com for free resources on mastering type 1 diabetes in menopause and to stay connected and learn about my coaching programs. We look forward to being together next Monday, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single episode. Remember that together we can age gracefully with type 1 diabetes.